Good day and welcome to Bible Story Time with Emmy. Today's story is Rebekah at the Well, Genesis 24 10 to 27. This account is reimagined in Rebekah's voice. The evening hours were always my favorite. The heat of the day softened, the air grew cooler, and the sky turned to liquid gold before surrendering to purple ducks. That evening, as the shadows lengthened across the fields of Nahor, I lifted my jar onto my shoulders and set out towards the well. The path was familiar beneath my sandal, worn by generations of women before me. From our courtyard, I could hear the voices of my family drifting faintly, the sound of my mother's instructions to the servants, the low murmur of my father's men preparing for the night. The scent of baking bread lingered in the air. All of it was ordinary, routine. Yet, as I walked, I felt the quiet anticipation that sometimes stirred in me when the world seemed to hold its breath. The, way, the well lay just beyond the city, where palms and acacia trees reached towards the heavens. It was a place of gathering, of laughter, of countless footsteps that wore the stones smooth. As I drew near, I noticed a sight that made me slow my steps. A caravan. 10 camels knelt in the dust, their tall frames swaying slightly, their sides heaving with weariness. The scent of sweat and desert clung to them, heavy and pungent. By their side stood a man, an older man, robed in travel-stained garments, his skin darkened by the sun, his beard streaked with grey. His posture was strong but weary, as if he bore not only the weight of the road, but also of something unseen. He was not from Nahor, that much was plain. My fingers tightened around the jar as I approached. He watched me intensely, not with arrogance as some men did, nor with idle curiosity, but with a strange intensity as though he had been waiting. I lowered my jar carefully, the rope biting into my palms as I drew water from the depths. The cool splash echoed, and droplets clung to my arms. Just as I lifted the vessel to pour into the trough, he stepped closer. His voice broke the stillness, respectful but hoarse from thirst. Please, he said, let me drink a little water from your jar. There was nothing unusual in the request, yet something in his tone, humble, almost pleading, stirred compassion in me. I tilted the jar and held it out. Drink, my lord, I said, my voice steady. He drank deeply, his shoulders easing as though the water refreshed more than just his body. For a moment, he looked heavenward, his lips moving in what seemed to be silent prayer. When his gaze returned, gratitude shone in his eyes. But my attention had already shifted. The camels. Their tongues flicked restlessly. Their sides trembled with exhaustion. 10 camels. Each one could drink gallons before they were satisfied. I knew what that meant. Hours of labor, countless trips to the well, sore arms and weary feet. Yet the thought did not weigh me down. I will draw water for your camels also, I said quickly. Before he could ask, until they have finished drinking. The man's lips parted as if in astonishment, but he said nothing. I set the jar down, drew again and poured into the trough. Again and again I moved, drawing, carrying, pouring. The rope burned against my palm, The weight of the jar pulled against my shoulders. Sweat dampened my veil. My arms trembled. Yet I pressed on. The camels drank greedily, grunting with satisfaction, their eyes closing in relief. Other women glanced in my direction as they passed, but I hardly noticed. It was as if the well, the camels, and the man, all of it existed in a stillness that belonged to God alone. Finally, after what felt like hours, the last camel lifted its head, water dripping from its lips. My chest heaved with exertion. My body ached, but my spirit was strangely light. The man stepped forward, his face solemn, his hands trembling slightly. From his satchel, he drew out treasures, shining gold that caught the fading light of evening. A nose ring, two bracelets. He held them out with reverence, not as payment, but as though they bore meaning I could not yet grasp. Please tell me, he asked, his voice low but urgent. Whose daughter are you? Is there room in your father's house for us to lodge? I blinked, startled by the suddenness of his gift and question. The gold felt heavy in my hands, warm from the desert sun. I am Rebekah, I answered, daughter of Bethuel, son of Milcah, whom she bore to Nahor. We have plenty of straws and fodder, and room to lodge. The moment I spoke, the man dropped to the ground. My breath caught as he pressed his forehead to the dust. His voice broke, trembling with awe. Blessed be the Lord, the God of my master Abraham, he cried, who has not forsaken his steadfast love and faithfulness towards my master. As for me, the Lord has led me on this journey to the house of my master's relative. The air around us seemed to still, the sound of the evening dimming. I stood frozen, the gold heavy in my hands, my heart pounding in my chest. His words washed over me. Abraham, the name of our great kingsman, the God who guided his steps, the sense that this meeting was not by chance but by divine hand. I had set out to fetch water, nothing more. Yet now I stood at the threshold of something far greater than myself. Lifting the hem of my robe, I turned swiftly, my feet flying along the path towards home. I had to tell my mother, my father, and my brother Laban. I had to tell them everything, the camels, the man, his gifts, his prayer. But deep within me, I already knew. The Lord had stepped into my ordinary tasks and rewritten my path. What seemed like kindness at a well had become the opening of destiny. And as the first stars pierced the violet sky, my spirit whispered the truth. I dare not speak aloud. My life will never be the same again. Lessons of faith. The sacred often hides in the ordinary. What seemed like a routine task can become the very place where God's hand reveals destiny. Faithfulness in small things prepares us for the calling written unto eternity. The smallest act of kindness offered freely can open the doors to the greatest callings. God's plan often arrived quietly, on ordinary paths, in ordinary moments, yet they changed everything forever. Thank you so much for listening. Please like, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed this story. I would also love to hear your lessons of faith in the comment section. Have a blessed day. Thank you.